Hey, what's going on, dudes? My name is Rex and we're back with some more Elder Scrolls Skyrim. On the last episode, we had a small conversation about Moloch Ball. Pretty small, 16 minutes long, small conversation about Moloch Ball. And I know you guys voted that you guys want, some longer videos, 30 to 40 or so minutes. And that episode was recorded before I actually uploaded the one before that, which was the one where I actually asked you that question, how long the videos were gonna be. But yeah, so from now on we should be seeing some videos on that line. Now today is a very special day. We're not really gonna have a specific topic that has anything to do with what we've been talking about before, but also has nothing to do with the quest or the location where we're currently in, which, by the way, we are in obviously what appears to be a Nordic ruin governed by the Forsworn. We're on our way here, and just for those who forgot what we were doing here, we're actually doing the quest Locate the Assassin of Old, since we killed the guy who was supposed to be organizing the defense, the safety of the, or I guess it was the son. Yeah, the son of, was it Maro? Something Maro, Garo Maro? Garmayos Maro? No, that sounds weird. Something Maro or other. But his son was kind of going around town, all around the cities, kind of preparing for the Emperor arriving here in Skyrim, and we killed him. We killed the guy in order to kind of, I guess, make his dad nervous, so to speak, and maybe skimp a little bit on the security. If I remember correctly, that's how it goes. And because we did that, because we killed him in a city, instead of a city, which obviously is a lot harder to do, we got this free quest, which will give us a couple of new sets of pieces of armor, which is supposed to be pretty good. And that's why we're here. Let's go ahead and be a little bit sting. I cannot believe they actually didn't see me. So I just want to make sure that I actually have my heavy armor set, because it's a little bit weird they haven't. First Atronach, let's do this. I have no delusions that I'll actually be able to sneak past them, so let's just go ahead and enter guns blazing. But yeah, as I said before, today is a very special episode. We're gonna be answering some comments, some questions that you guys have left down in the comments. Just because, I felt bad that the last episode was so short, and kind of trying to pay it back, because we haven't really have had too many questions being answered in the past episodes, since our topics have been pretty broad and long. So hoping this at least will satiate some of you guys. Want to make sure that you guys know that I read the comments, and I want to attempt to answer as many as possible. That's pretty nice. Scroll of Firebolt. All right. So the next the first question, it's a little bit tricky. And the way that I chose which questions were going to be answered was purely based out of the like system on YouTube. Whoever had the most likes, as long as it was a real question and not some, comment or, something that I could actually answer, as far as anything that had to do with Skyrim, I guess, or Elder Scrolls in general, was what I chose. But the first question was, Otaku Brayden asks, in the next episode, could you discuss the language among different races? Keep up the great content, says he. Thank you very much, Otaku. So it's kind of an awkward question to ask, or to answer rather, because there's a trap down there. Because it's a pretty broad question. I mean, I could talk to you about language in the games. I mean, every race has its own language. Wait, that didn't hit me? That's awesome. every race has its own language. I mean, hell, even just the elves, like every different sect of elf, every single cultural demographic of elves, let's say, has its own language. So obviously the actual Aldmer have their own languages, the Domner have their own languages, the Dwemer, the Falmer, which of course means the snow elves. Even the Bosmer have their own languages. I mean, it's the sort of thing where, like, it's gonna be very difficult for me to, like, pick something specific. Ow! Something specific to talk about, since every single one has their own little way of speaking. You have the Nordic people, you have the ancient Nordic people. Obviously, you have common, you have the Tamrielic races, you have the Elhnofey, which have their own languages. The the Daedra have their own languages, right? Oh, actually, okay, you know what? Scratch that. That's a common misconception, and I fell for the same trick that many fall before me. The Daedra, and this might be something interesting to talk about, the Daedra don't actually have a language. The Daedric language it's a misnomer. Doesn't actually exist. What actually exists, this girl is just pissing me off, is the Daedric script, which is what they deem as a language, even though it's not really a language. If anything, it's almost like a...
Time to end this little game.
Oh shit. I am getting destroyed here. If anything, it's almost like an alphabet. Like, there is such a thing as a Daedric alphabet. But they don't have, like, their own language. They don't talk to each other in a specific language other than, you know, whatever you hear them as, which I guess would be common in some of the games. Now, I have to open this door here. There we go. There is the assassin of old, Dark Brotherhood assassin. So what we get is a better version of the set that we can obtain normally inside of the guild. It's just a little bit more powerful. Do I want it? I'm not really playing as an assassin, sneaky type of guy, and not playing with bows. Poison resistance might be pretty nice, but it's light armor, so double sneak attack damage. I mean, it's already the same as what I have. This is just the same as I have, just with more armor. So I don't think I'm gonna pick it up. I mean, if I want it, I can always come back here and get it. Instead of having it, you know, like, take actual space in my inventory. This increases my stamina by 50 points. What I got was just a little bit better in armor, but not by much. I'm gonna drop it. So, yeah, so obviously I want to get rid of this. The only reason that I'm keeping it is because of the double sneak attack damage. For those moments where I actually have to sneak and kill somebody without being seen, which is annoying as hell. This for the sneaking purposes of it, and obviously being muffled while walking. I don't really want to wear, like, actual light armor, and as soon as I finish the Dark Brotherhood questline, I think I'm just going to get rid of all those armor pieces. But yeah, I mean, every race has its own language. You have the Sloats, which are kind of like a not very well known race in the Elder Scrolls universe. But language is one of those things that doesn't really get used too much in the games. I mean, every now and again you get one of those quests that goes like, oh yeah, like we have this script from the Falmer and we have to like decipher it to see what they were talking about or whatever, right? That's an actual quest here in Skyrim. But other than that, like, I guess it's not really a big deal. Like whether the Dragonborn like knows Falmer or knows, you know, ancient Aelid. It never really comes into place. Like, it's never something that happens. As far as we know, the oh, this is not gonna happen. The Dragonborn could just be, you know, just no common. That's it, and he would just be able to live his life and complete his purpose just the same, right? Now, I've been playing a lot of D&D set in Elder Scrolls. Currently, I've been doing a lot of that, and obviously in games like those, like in board games such as D&D. The language here in the Elder Scrolls universe gets used a lot more often, right? If you let's say that you have a party of dungeon delvers and you go down into a Falmer mine, and you know whether your character actually knows the script of the Falmer, like that actually matters, right? But in the games, it's never been a big deal. I suck at this game. If I didn't have too many healing potions, I would be pooped. Trying to use my conjuration stuff as much as possible. Just getting that fireball ready. It doesn't even have to hit you for it to impact you. So yeah, I wish I could answer your question a little bit more, like, you know, specific. I'm really having a hard time here because it's so broad, but it was definitely, like, if I remember correctly, it was the most liked comment otaku, so I chose it. But you know, in the next video or something, if you want to give me something more specific, then I might be able to answer you a little bit better, because I'm really struggling to find something to talk about, you know, languages in general here in the Elder Scroll world. What I can definitely say, and let me just take a little moment here to talk about here my little podium, almost like in a school. I'm hosting some kind of narrative here. What I can definitely say is that I really do enjoy the fact that in the world of the Elder Scrolls, like, words do have power to a certain degree. Like, obviously you have dragons, right? And the language of dragons is like an actual important thing in the lore of the game. When you say those words and you understand what you're saying, you can tap into this hidden, like, power in the world, this hidden knowledge that just somehow activates, like, the magical potential of the world through you, right? Which is something that I always talked about when I played The Witcher. Something that I really enjoyed about The Witcher was that curses are actually like a thing. You know, like when you're watching Romeo and Juliet and, you know, one guy goes like, a curse upon your houses, or a plague upon your houses, or something along those lines. You know, in the world of The Witcher, like, that actually has power. You can actually curse someone with a plague in their house when you say that. That's something that can actually happen, right? It's not like you don't have to be a witch or a magician for that to happen. You just, when you say that, you know, spirits can tap into your anger and actually create that curse that you're speaking of. Well, in the world of Skyrim, that doesn't necessarily happen that way, but there is such a thing as, you know, your words, your whatever you're doing, like the movement of your mouth and creating those syllables, like, can actually create magic, right? A lot of spells could potentially have, you know, verbal components to them that, you know, for you to actually be able to cast those spells. Now, we know that the sigils from the Daedric alphabet are actually, you know, the little fonts or whatever. A lot of people can, you know, magicians can use those symbols as actual like sigils, like magical sigils. Like when you see those, like those frost traps on the floor, I'm pretty sure I think they are Daedric symbols. Even if they're not, like, they could very well be. Like, that's something that happens in this world. We know that the alphabet of the Daedrus are considered to be the alphabet of change, because they represent, obviously, the Daedrus they represent change in nature. Like, you can turn those letters into magic, because that's just what they're designed to be that way. Now, that's the only thing I can tell you, Otaku. Give me something more specific and I may be able to help you. What I can tell you, though, is that the language, if you want to find some really interesting shit, look up the language of the Elhnofey, and we'll talk about we will talk about the Elhnofey in a little bit. But their language is usually, like, the most interesting, because they were the first creatures on this planet. Can I do this? There we go. So, you know, whatever names, you know, like when you talk about Nirn, right? When you talk about, like, those primordial names for, like, the universe and the planet, all of that, like, it's usually there where they came from. Like Nirn, for example, it's supposed to mean the Grey Maybe. Like when you talk about Anu and Padome and the Grey Maybe, you know, the Grey Maybe usually signifies Nirn. And that supposedly comes down from the Elhnofey, right? Like, that's just their language. That's what they meant. We know that the Bretons, like the name Breton, comes from the name, from the word Beratu, which means half in Elhnofey. So, half human, half elf, Beratu, you know, turns into Breton for some reason, but that's where it comes from. Now, this is my favorite word of power here. Time slow. Hells yeah. As soon as we get the 3 words for this, it's gonna be so good. Next question. The RPG Gamer asks me, what would be your ideal Elder Scrolls 6 as far as... Oh shit. These girls are gonna destroy me. Bow! I thought there were gonna be some witches. I guess not. Ow. I guess there is the witch. Go ahead and just getting one-shotted by the troll. What I should do probably is just try and line them up so that one Fusrodak can just take them both out. That would be, like, glorious. Aren't I glorious? What would be my ideal Elder Scrolls 6? So, I'm not sure, and I'm really trying to stay as blind to this as possible. I'm not sure how much has been revealed as far as, like, the next Elder Scrolls is. Obviously, a lot of people keep saying Argonia. That's a name that keeps getting dropped a lot. I'm not sure what the validity of that is. I am pretty sure that it's really just speculation and none of it is grounded in truth. But regardless, my favorite, what would be like my go-to? Let's see. I'm not gonna take that. There's a secret chest in there. You see that little path over there? This is something that not many can't speak today. Not many people know. But you can definitely get there with Whirlwind Sprint, I think, actually. Let me see. Oh, let's rest a little bit. There are some enemies down there. Oh, shit. Spread a little bit more. No! There we go. Did it. There's a secret area here with a secret chest holding a secret item. A unique item, actually, if I remember correctly. If I can find it. There it is. The Predator's Gaze. I can't read. What the fuck is wrong with me today? I'm having a stroke. I'm stroking, guys. Where is muffled and moves silently. Stamina regenerates 1% faster. So, it's like a little bit worse than the shrouded like boots we could have gotten, because I believe those do the same thing. Outside of the stamina regeneration, they do the same thing except that they have like 12 armor or something. But yeah, stamina regeneration. It's okay. I'm not sure if you can actually like disenchant this, but yeah, just letting you guys know. I'm here to give you guys the knowledge of stuff. So, you know, that's a thing you can get. Anyways, let's stop dilly-dallying. My favorite place, I would say, is definitely Elsewhere. There's something about Elsewhere that just strikes my fancy, and this is something that has to do with, I think, variety. One of the biggest things about Skyrim that I love the most is the fact that you can find all manners of flora and fauna here, and not just that, but the actual region houses all manners of locations. So you can have, you have your icy, snowy mountains, but you also have your prairies, you have your forests, you have your swamps, you have that autumn awesome style that, that Riften possesses. You have your tundra, which is just like your snowy kind of flatlands, right? Like you have your wet, cold lands. Like there are a fair amount of variety. I mean, Skyrim is not just like snow and mountains, even though it is in a lot of ways portrayed like that. It's not really all that you get here. Let me just go ahead and quick save, just to be safe. And I feel like Elsewhere we get a lot of that as well. I mean, Elsewhere you have your deserts, you get your mountains, you get your forests, your jungles, right? Like you have your arid locations. You're kind of you can get that like Grand Canyon sort of feel with that like kind of red ground and with clay and stuff. Like you can get that over there. You get rivers, you get the sea, right? Like there's definitely a very high level of variance that you can get from Elsewhere that I feel like not many places would be able to give you. Like Valenwood, as cool as it might be, I mean, it's really just a forest and a jungle, right? Like that's it. Maybe a prairie here and there, but it's you're not gonna get that desert feel, man. Alright, we got this. I guess we can go back to the Brotherhood. So yeah, obviously you're not gonna get that tundra feel. You're not gonna get like snow outside of like maybe mountains, and I don't know if you're really gonna see like snowy mountain peaks back in Elsewhere. But you get the desert, so it's like a give and take, right? You lose that snowy feel, but you get the desert, and you still get to keep all the jungles and the forests and the prairies and the So I feel like there's something to that, which is important, right? Because there's only three, like, at least as far as I'm concerned, there's only three main like locations or cultural interesting locales, right? So you have your high European fantasy, which is Oblivion, and High Rock would be that too. You have your Nordic kind of fantasy land, which is Skyrim, and then you have maybe like the Chinese, Asian, Japanese style of of culture. Those I would say are the main, like the big three. I would say definitely the most famous. I don't think the Arabic culture is as popular anymore, and I guess you guys might argue against it. I want to see what you guys think about it. But I don't think Hammerfell would be as interesting, and I feel like Elsewhere could definitely apply to the European fantasy, but give it a twist, right? The Khajiit twist, the interesting cat twist. I'll get back to that question in a second because we're gonna have some story here.
Just try to relax, Vizara. Let the elixir do its work. You'll feel better shortly.
Thank you, dear. You are most kind. The Jester's cut feels as bad as it looks, I'm afraid.
Damn it, this never should have happened. We knew better. We knew better, and still we let our guards down. Ugh!
I'll admit, even I'm having a hard time disagreeing with you.
Marrow is dead, I know, but we've got bigger problems right now. The fool went absolutely berserk. He wounded Vizara, tried to kill me, and then he fled. I knew that lunatic couldn't be trusted.
Oh, it's true, I'm afraid. Cicero was a little whirlwind, slashing this way and that. It would have been funny if he weren't trying to murder us all.
Don't forget the ranting and raving. About the Night Mother, how she was the true leader of the Dark Brotherhood, and Astrid was just a pretender.
Look, we've got to deal with this situation. You've got to deal with this situation. I want you to find that miserable little fool and end his life. But first, find my husband. Make sure he's all right. After the attack, Arnbjorn flew into a rage. When Cicero left, Arnbjorn went after him. They disappeared into the wild. Search Cicero's room. Maybe there's something in there that sheds some light on where he might have gone. Let me know the minute you find something. I've got to see to Vizara and calm everyone down.
Bested by a fool. Who's the fool now, hmm?
Hush, Vizara. You were very brave. Astrid may well be dead if not for you.
She's right. I'll be forever in your debt, dearest brother. Now be quiet. Just rest.
Alright, we have to go into the room to find where this guy has been gone. But yeah, I just there's something cool about the Khajiits. I feel like we don't know enough about them, and I want to know more about them. Of course, you have the fact that Elsewhere is separated into two different states. I forget the name of the second one. It's an Equina and something else. But they're separated into two. And so obviously you can get that kind of difference in culture versus like what one group of Khajiit believe and what the other believe, right? You may have like some kind of war going on in there. Not necessarily a war, because I don't think we necessarily want like a civil war version 2 necessarily. Like that's not a thing that has to happen. But just the fact that it's there, the fact that we can have that kind of difference in what you might believe in the same culture, like I find that very interesting, right? Obviously you have a lot of topics to, you know, as plot points. You have the Thalmor that you can add in there. Of course, the Khajiit are allied with the Thalmor against the Empire, right? They're not necessarily part of the Elmeri Dominion, but they're allied to them, which is very interesting. The dichotomy of that and what may come out as a topic, as a quest over there, as far as that is concerned. You know, you can have Argonia. You know, the Argonians are going crazy, assaulting the Dunmer. They may attack elsewhere. You can get some Hist in there. Like, there's a lot that you can do. You have the sea, so you know the coast between in elsewhere. Like that's where the skooma comes from, the crystals. Like they come from that coast. There might be something interesting in there, you know, as far as a quest. Like I feel like there's a lot to talk about. And of course, we don't know enough about the Khajiits as far as like how they breed, how like they come into existence, because we know that the moons have a lot to do with the way they give birth. Like whether you're a cat, like an actual house cat, or you're a tiger, a puma, or like an actual bipedal Khajiit, like that differs a lot on the moons, and I would love to just see that in action, like how it actually works. And there's a lot of different like births that we don't know how they look, right? So there are supposed to be Khajiits that actually look like elves. Like legitimately, you could not tell them apart between a Bosmer and a Khajiit. You could not tell them apart because they look very similarly. Like that's a thing that happens, and I want to see that, right? There's so many cool things that can happen over there. And of course, I really love, like, I love the kind of the European high fantasy, and I feel like we're going to get that with a twist with the Khajiit. Not as much. I'm not a big fan of the Arabic style. And I feel like High Rock would just be exactly like Oblivion, which is fine. Oblivion is awesome, but I want a little twist to it, and I feel like you could get a lot more twists with the Khajiits. Valen would be okay. That's like my second choice, probably. My third choice, I guess, would be Somerset Isles, but I'm not really that excited about it. Now, we're supposed to find a book. I'm sorry, I just really like to talk to you guys about this sort of thing, and it's hard when I'm playing. I know there's supposed to be a book here somewhere we're supposed to read. No? Is that later? Let me go ahead and The Cure for Madness. Search Cicero's room. Oh, I guess this was not his room. Yeah, that's my bad. So we got a couple of journals. The journals tell a lot about Cicero and his life. They talk a lot about how he treats the Night Mother. You know, like a lot of the stuff that I have talked about in the past, especially the lore for Cicero, has a lot to do with the journals. That's where I get all of my information. I think it's the last one we're trying to look. Yeah, there we go. So here's going to tell us that we are supposed to find Dawnstar and what the password is. There we go. What is life's greatest illusion? Innocence, my brother. I love it so much. Oh, I gotta pick it up. Yeah, I have to show it to Astrid, yeah. Now, the third question, which is the most important question of this video. What are the Elhnofey? By Vid09073. Vid. I talked a little bit about it. In fact, I may have answered your question 2 episodes ago, if I'm not mistaken. I will answer it once more because I love talking about Elder Scrolls, but give me 1 second.
Have you found something? Good, good. Does it say where he may be headed? The Dawnstar Sanctuary? Whatever for. Never mind, it doesn't matter. You need to leave. Now. Every moment counts, so I want you to take my horse. His name is Shadowmere. You'll find him outside by the pool. Let's just say he's one of us. Find Arnbjorn. Make sure my husband's all right. And then, send that jester's twisted little soul to the void, in as many pieces as possible. I took that prancing fool into my home, and this is how he repays me?
Alright, let's get the hell out of here. So, as I said, I think I answered this 2 episodes ago, and I don't remember exactly the context of what I was talking about anymore, but I definitely answered why the elves believe that they are, I guess, descendants from the goddess, from the gods, and that's where it comes from. That's where the Elhnofey come from. That's what they are. So the Elhnofey are, I mean, the bottom line is, and to the most basic extent, the Elhnofey are the descendants of the Aedras. So all the Aedras that created the world and then were trapped inside of Nirn because they couldn't leave because they had no power left, those are the Elhnofey. And eventually, as far as the elves are concerned, as far as what they believe, the Elhnofey reproduced between each other and procreated, and eventually that led to the elves. Now we get the beautiful Shadowmere. This is what you call, if you want to see what this is supposed to be, go ahead and Google Nightmare Horse. It's like a famous, I don't know where it comes from. It's probably like a Nordic thing, I would assume. The Nightmare Horses are like the horses of the apocalypse or some shit. I don't know. I know that Magic, the Gathering has a few cards for them. I know that D&D has a creature description for the nightmares. It's pretty. They usually have fire like on their mains though. Yeah, we're not gonna actually. Let me just make sure that I trigger him being with me. I don't know if that actually has any effect, but just to be sure. Now we'll head on over to Dawnstar. Here we go. So yeah, that's what the Elhnofey are, like in its most basic description. It goes a little bit more complicated than that because there's 2 types of Elhnofey. There are the Elhnofey, and then there's the old Elhnofey. Now the elves come from the old Elhnofey. The humans come from the Elhnofey. And as I said before, when the world was created, everything was chaos. This world was just like some. I'm not sure what they define as chaos. I imagine like what it would be like, more like balls, you know, like Vision, his realm of oblivion,
Yes?
like Cyrodiil just being like this, or Tamriel in general just being this complete wasteland full of destruction and lava. Like that's what I imagine the beginning of time in the Merethic era meaning, right? Now. One group of Elhnofey, the old Elhnofey, they found themselves in the land. They maintained their costumes, they maintained their magic, and they did their best to create this society high in magic and very respectable. Whereas the other Elhnofeys, they kind of degraded, evolved into, you know, this kind of primitive style of living where they were really trying to survive. They didn't really form too many communities. They foraged. They did their best to survive. Eventually, those that evolved and the old Elhnofey kind of met each other, and they started a battle because the old Elhnofey were too proud to let the messed up Elhnofey into their society. And when that battle happened, is where Tamriel kind of became Tamriel, and all of the other continents became the other continents. It is said that the war was so massive that the world was split into multiple continents. And the location where the old Elhnofey used to live became Tamriel, whereas the other Elhnofey became, they started leaving in like Anmora and Akavir and all the other locations, which is where the humans come from. The humans are the as far as the elves are concerned, they are the evolved version of the true old Elhnofeys. And I mean, we know that humans come from Admora. We know that they come from Akavir, etc. That's where that legend comes from. That's what the elves believe. Whereas the elves come from just Tamriel in general, and they maintained that level of that purity of blood, so to speak. But that's who the Elhnofey are. Pretty much, just the descendants of everything, and that's why literally all the languages come from Elhnofey. Like Elhnofey was the first language. Which this goes back to you, Otaku, to your question. Elhnofey was the very first language that was created in the world. The only one I believe that is not based out of Elhnofey, I think it's the Gel or the Saxaleels, which are the language of the Argonians, because they learned their languages from the Hist, and the Hist were the only other survivor in the creation of the worlds. When the worlds were created and the planet Nirn was created, only the Elhnofey survived, being the Aedras, and the Hist survived. And the Hist are supposed to be Daedras. Technically, they're supposed to be like the plants of some Daedric planets that also survived. So they have like their own language.
Should have figured Astrid would send you. Ugh, what gave it away? Yeah, gotta admit that little Jester's good with that butter knife. But don't worry, I gave as good as I got. In there, through the door. Some old sanctuary by the looks of it. I would have followed him, but I don't know the phrase. Alright, you convinced me. Doubt I'd be much good to you anyway. The little fop cut me pretty deep. But I slashed him good. Pretty sure I severed an artery. Don't know what you're gonna find in there. But you can probably just follow the blood.
That little fop. Whatever that means.
What is life's greatest illusion?
Innocence, my brother. The last question by Hakamori is, MrRhexx, what is your overall favorite race in all of Nirn and why? I love that you actually say all of Nirn and not just like Tamriel, which I appreciate that. It's a very hard... Sorry.
Is that you? Oh, I knew you'd come. Send the best to defeat the best. Astrid knew her stupid wolf couldn't slice Cicero.
Here we get the a worst version of Cicero's clothes. Of course, if you kill Cicero, you get a better version of this clothes. But we're not gonna kill him, which means we should be taking this, but I'm not, because, as I said, I am not really going to be doing too much of sneaky killing stuff. I'm gonna be kind of ferociously attacking my targets as the warrior that I am. Oh shit, wasn't expecting that. My favorite race. See, that's another hard question to answer, right? Because they're all cool. But and I feel like this might be a cop-out answer, but the dragons are definitely like my favorite. Like, there's no way that I can like rationalize anything but the dragons. Just their nature, the way they talk, their lore, their history, the whole Thum system is like amazing to me.
This isn't at all what Mother would want. You kill the keeper, or I kill the listener. Now that's madness.
I'm a big fan of the dragons and the way that Bethesda kind of, worked their dragons in, because obviously there's a lot of different types of dragons. You have the Tolkien style of dragons, which are like, powerfully greedy, evil in nature. They're all like evil, right? They covet like gold, then you have like the D&D sort of dragons. Like you have different colors of dragons. You have the black dragons are different than the red dragons, which are different than the yellow dragons or gold dragons or whatever. You know, they all have their own characteristics and predispositions.
I always well defended. I always a stickler for details, get it? Stickler! Oh, I slay me.
He's the original troll. There we go, we leveled up, I'll level up on the next episode, I think. And you know, the dragons here in Bethesda, they have their own language, which is just obviously just riddled with power. They're part of the of one of the strongest deities in the universe, in this particular universe at least. Everything with the dragon priests, everything with the Nordic, ancient Nords.
Could you at least slow down a bit? Not what I used to be.
I guess I could probably give you guys a lot more reasons, but there's also that cool factor that dragons have, which is obviously, it's pretty natural. I mean, they're fucking dragons, right? Like, I don't have to explain why dragons are cool. Dragons are just fucking cool, right? So, if you're gonna consider dragons a cop-out answer, then I would probably just say Argonians. But, you know, they serve that same purpose, that the lore, the story, there's something coolness about them. They're lizards that can, like, breathe underwater. I mean, how cool is that? Like, they're, like, immune to, like, all diseases and poisons, and, you know, they live in this region of the world that literally no other creature can live in because there exists this plague in there that literally kills everything else. Like, there's so many cool factors about those two races that I just really, really love. And I hope that answers your question, Hakamori. But we'll be ending the episode here very soon.
Chili. You'll enjoy this. Not an original part of the sanctuary per se. Let's call it a forced edition. Forced by what? Oh, come and see.
Go ahead and quick save. So the troll obviously opened up this himself, as what Sister is trying to say. He didn't construct this section of the Dawnstar location.
Cicero attack that harlot Astrid.
Go ahead and
Well, what's it for?
the only thing that I want to comment about MrRhexx is, of course, he's a unique troll. He's stronger than the other trolls, just as far as actual damage. But the only cool thing about him are the eyes. So obviously, look at the eyes are green. This is very different from traditional trolls. Let me go ahead and help Frost troll. No, that's not how you do it. I think it's just Frost, right? I haven't done this in a very long time now. Frost troll player, Peter plays at me. 04006012. If you look at the eyes are like different. So this troll is not just unique in name, but the actual design of the body is also unique, which I think is really cool. Now let me just go ahead and kill him. Sorry, dude. Wow, that was weird. I'm gonna glitch out this game. Holy crap. Now, don't ask me how hard I came here because I have no idea. Anyways, that's gonna be the end of this episode. I hope you all enjoyed this. It was very enjoyable for me. I can't really see how long the video is, but I'm thinking it's probably... I'm really bad at talking about time, but I'm pretty sure it's about 40 minutes, right? I'm hoping. Anyways. On the next episode, we'll talk a little bit more about the Divines. We'll continue down our way into, you know, Daedrus and Divines and everything that has to do with divinity here in the Elder Scrolls world, since that's kind of like the main topic that we're currently conversing. But yeah, see you guys next time. Bye-bye, bros.